You only have done a few stories based on Asia, like Dream Hunters, is Japan. So any thoughts about something set in China, in Asia, East Asia?
I did a story called Exiles, Sandman 74, which actually has a Chinese... It's set a while ago, and it's about a Chinese official who has been sent into exile going through the Taklamakan Desert on his way into exile in the West, meeting Sandman and stuff like that, or two different Sandmans. And it was very strange for me suddenly finding myself in places that I'd written about back then, and going, oh my gosh, it actually does look like I thought it would look here. The shifting sands outside Dongguan, I wrote about them. So, but would I do more fiction set in China? Yeah, I think I probably will. But there are so many stories I have to tell, and set all over the place, and it's just a matter now of, how many I can fit in before I fail to look both ways crossing the street, or get turned into snacks for hungry Singaporeans.
Okay, like I said, I think I will really leave the questions to the floor, but I have one last question which I want to ask. What's with the bees?
What's with the bees?
Yes, what's the bees?
The whole beekeeping thing started in my head about 16 years ago, when I said to my assistant Lorraine, wouldn't it be great to have some bees? And she said no. And I said, why not? And she said, because I am terrified of bees. I have a pathological fear of bees. I'm absolutely scared of bees. And I know you. You wind up traveling places. Somebody calls, you disappear off, you're making a movie, you're writing a book here. And all I know about a world in which you would be beekeeping is that I would have to look after the bees and they would kill me. So I said, okay, well then I won't keep bees. But it was this weird little sort of, thing that I thought would be wonderful. And then about 4 years ago, there was a lot of press around America and the UK about colony collapse disorder in bees, beehives disappearing, bees dying mysteriously, and I remember thinking, well, I should do my part for the planet. I could keep bees. That would just help. And I really want to keep bees. And there is a lady named Sharon Steitler who is a very leading blogger. Her blog is birdchick.com. And she and her husband Bill are friends of mine, and she comes out to my house every few weeks and disappears off into the woods for many, many hours and comes back informing me that she has just encountered the only great crested corncrake west of the Rockies or whatever. And I go, oh, that's very impressive. And in fact, she actually thought that I was playing a birding practical joke on her the third time she came out to my house, because she looked out of the window and saw an English blue tit on the tree. And she pointed out. I'm saying, oh yes, it's a blue tit. She's saying, they aren't an American bird. How did you do this? As if I had a supply of blue tit. Being English, I'd obviously come over with my pocket stuffed with small English birds, and then she had to report it as being the first sighting, and it turns out there's probably a mysterious mad birding person somewhere in the area of Chicago who breeds English birds and lets them go just to confuse bird watchers, which I think is actually kind of cool. Anyway, so Sharon and I were talking, and Bill, her husband, and my assistant Lorraine were around, and I was saying, oh, look, colony collapse, I've always wanted to keep bees. And she said, oh my God, I've always wanted to keep bees, but we can't do it because we're in the city, and, we just have a little apartment. And her husband Bill's going, and because we'd die. And somehow by the end of that conversation, it was agreed that Sharon would go on a beekeeping course and become a lead beekeeper, and I would pay for everything and become junior beekeeper. So that was and I had the land. So, and of course, Bill and Lorraine were convinced that this was just a very, very weird suicide pact on behalf, respectively, of their boss and wife. The problem was the day the bees actually arrived, I had to go off and do a signing because the bees arrived a week late. which meant that Lorraine and Sharon had to put them in. And so they did, and by the end of it, Lorraine had some kind of strange, spiritual, mystical experience, one of these life-changing experiences that you come out of a better person, as she put the bees into the hive and faced and conquered all of her childhood fears of bees and discovered that this was magical, and oh my God, it is eating honey from my finger, and now I am one with the bees. And so I came back to this world in which Lorraine is just like, oh yes, putting the bees into the hive was the most awesome mystical experience I have ever had. You have been denied this experience. So that's really, and that was really the start of the whole bee thing. We had these hives. Just for a joke, our first year we entered our honey into the county fair under Lorraine's name. And it promptly got a blue ribbon. So this year we thought that must have been coincidence. So this year we entered honey and a comb into the county fair and got the blue ribbon again. A blue ribbon is like number one. You've won. And I don't know what it says about me, but I was, in terms of awards this year, Newbery Medal was probably the most thrilling to get. Hugo was the next. Then comes Blue Ribbon for Honey. And then comes like a dozen other literary awards. So, yesterday I learned that Fragile Things had just won the leading French, as in translation, as Les Choses Fragiles, as the leading French book in translation, short stories. I won the prize Utopial. Blue Ribbon Honey beats it. Absolutely.
And I think you guys can watch Neil all suit up on his website.
You see, lots of pictures of me looking like I'm in a hazmat suit.
Yeah, that's right.